Hey everybody, happy Wednesday, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of getting feedback in language learning. So I'm going to be using an example from a recent video that I made where I gave you a German sort of speaking progress update, and I got some really good feedback. We're also going to be discussing, why it's so important, in my opinion, to be open to feedback and sort of discuss that. Lots of cool stuff to talk about, so without further ado, let's jump in. So as many of you will know, I often like to really make myself very vulnerable with all of you when it comes to speaking languages that I'm perhaps not so confident in yet, or maybe languages I haven't spoken for a while, and I always do this unscripted. And I've done this quite a lot over the years. Several years ago, I did videos like how bad my German has gotten or how rusty my Portuguese has become, right? Where I wanted to specifically show you, hey, these languages have gotten pretty rusty and here's just how bad, right? And then after that, I did a whole series where I documented myself bringing my Portuguese, my German, and then later my Spanish, really back up. And I made a video that I'll link below. It was an older video, it's not super great quality, but you can see, how much my German, Portuguese, and Spanish improved. I think it's pretty cool. So in recent months, I've been doing this again, and so I made a video in Mandarin Chinese where, I have to say I was really happy. I felt really proud of myself. It felt like, inside of me, whether it was, expressed outwardly, but it felt like my Chinese had really started to approach the intermediate level. And I think the intermediate level is quite large. So we're talking the very bottom, but it felt like I was beginning to advance out of the beginner phase. And so I made a video and I just did my very best to speak in Mandarin unscripted for a minute or two. And I just wanted to, show you how I was doing and then discuss this really exciting feeling of becoming intermediate. And on that video, I got some constructive critical feedback, right? And the key word there is constructive and the other one, critical, right? So it was, pointing out things that I really needed to work on, but it was done in a constructive way and it was really helpful. But I do have to say, if I'm being honest with you, came out super excited. I was really proud of myself. And yeah, of course, when you first get, when the first few comments are like, I really think you should work on this, or, you really want to, of course, there's a natural initial reaction of like, oh man, I was really proud of myself, right? But it's okay, right? Everyone goes through that to different degrees. The key here is that I immediately recognized, that this is really valuable and I really appreciate that people took the time to give me that feedback, right? And so a couple months later, I made another video in Mandarin Chinese and I had really tried my best to address the feedback I got. So I'll play a few clips here just now so you can kind of see the progression I went through.
OK, 我今天非常激动，因为这几天我觉得我中文终于终极，我还在每天学习，最近我觉得我中文一天比一天好了，依我看激动的不得了。大家好，那么最近我常常去这个台湾饭店，他们的菜非常好吃，而且在那个饭店工作的人太好了，他们总是跟我一起练习说普通话。
And then after that, I actually had my very first Mandarin Chinese conversation that I captured here on the channel, and I'll also leave a link to that in the description in case you want to check that out.
Hey, Robin, 怎么样？
今天我很紧张，可是我有我的咖啡，所以
我也有我的咖啡。你不要紧张，你跟朋友说话。
对，你说的对。But so recently, I've been doing the same thing, but in German. So my German skills have actually, over the years, gotten quite rusty again. And I made the decision that, I'm tired of my German constantly. It comes up and then it never quite gets over that really advanced level, and so it atrophies very quickly. And it's like, I always get it higher every time, but it's never high enough. And so I decided, you know what, I want to make a big effort to finally, first of all, bring my German back to, I think, the highest point where it was. But I want to finally take it into the advanced levels. I want to really get my German to a place where I can speak it confidently, I can understand it well, and also I can maintain it more easily because I've reached a higher point. And I'm going to do the same thing for all my languages that I haven't yet gotten to that point. So I made a video, speaking German exactly as it is, unscripted, unedited, and I made some mistakes, right? It was pretty difficult, and I've done a couple of updates. So last week, I made an update video.
Hallo liebe Leute, also heute wollte ich ein bisschen wieder auf Deutsch sprechen, weil wie ihr weißt, ich lerne mich wieder diese Sprache und diese und letzte Woche habe ich viel mehr Zeit Deutsch lernen gemacht und das ist, ich muss sagen, es ist eine großartige Gefühle.
And again, I was really proud of myself, right? I was happy with the progress that I had made. But I have to say, people gave me some feedback, and one user in particular, Curious, really took the time to go through and give me this like massive piece of feedback with timestamps and, including my mistake and also the corrected version. And it was just so helpful. And so I just had to make a video about it because, again, I think that people do often struggle getting, critical feedback. And again, I think that the first key is to recognize that it is constructive, hopefully, right? Now, I do think that there is a skill to delivering feedback. So I have to say, first of all, thank you to everybody on this channel, in this audience and this community who has given me feedback on my language skills, because I think almost everybody has done a fantastic job of delivering it in a very constructive and positive way. And this was no exception. It was fantastic, right? But even if it's not delivered well, even if the delivery isn't so delicate, right? Recognizing that this is a massive opportunity to learn, right? Because the thing is, I can study German or Mandarin Chinese or whatever, as much as I want. And of course, I'm going to be doing my very best to, reproduce the language accurately. But the thing is, when I go out into the streets and if I talk to someone in German, and let's say my German is pretty good, well, usually in that context, people tend to focus on the good stuff, right? So if I speak German quite well, people are gonna be like, oh wow, your German's really good. Like, that's impressive, It's pretty rare that immediately someone's gonna be like, your German's good, but these are some mistakes that you made, right? It's not as easy to get feedback. So if I'm, reproducing the language to my best ability, and then I go out and speak to people and I get this positive feedback, there's no way for me to know the mistakes I'm making. And it can be quite easy to become maybe a bit overconfident. Not necessarily in an arrogant way, but just, you may really start to think, wow, I'm doing my best here. It sounds good to me. And then I talk to people and it seems to sound good to them. So I guess my German's pretty damn good. But it's not always the case, right? So that's one of the challenges, I think, is, getting that feedback is difficult. So I did want to make a point that when you get feedback, like the massive chunk of feedback that I got in German last week, but also the feedback I got in Mandarin, I think although it can sting a bit, right? Although it can be a little bit sad, right? Especially if you really felt like you did a good job. And by nature, critical feedback, it's going to focus on the things you got wrong, right? And so, yeah, it might feel a little bit disappointing at first. But for me, the thing that helps me, immediately forget that and immediately see it as a positive, again, it's just recognizing that this is solid gold and there's no other way for you to, recognize the mistakes you're making, or there's no better way, right? And so that's just one thought that I have in terms of how to deal with that. So I think it's a good exercise for everybody to think for a second, how well do you handle critical and hopefully constructive feedback in a language or anywhere else in life. Because I do think that language learning is a great opportunity to practice this sort of skill, if you will, of receiving feedback, and then how do you process it and learn from it and use it to advance your skills. So with that being said, I want to quickly show you now what I did with the feedback that I got. This is not an exhaustive list of techniques, this is just how I personally processed the feedback that I got recently. So the first thing I did is, I got some feedback on the pronunciation of CH, right? So apparently I've been making this mistake a few times. Another user, Angel's Joker, also pointed this out recently to me. And so the first thing I did is I came to Babbel. Now, many of you will know I'm a big fan of Babbel. I use this application for any language I'm learning that they offer. And I know specifically that Babbel has these pronunciation courses, right? And so the cool thing is they're broken down by different sounds. So, I have to admit, I wasn't honestly 100% sure what mistake I was making with CH. And so the first thing I did was I came straight back to this pronunciation lesson about H and CH, and I just did it again. I actually did it multiple times, and I just really tried my best to, really pay attention to the rules and the different sounds. And by the way, I do have an affiliate link to Babbel in case you want to try it out and support me at the same time, but that's up to you. I'll leave that in the description. But yeah, so I just came here and I read through all this stuff and okay, looks like there are 3 ways to pronounce this. Awesome, right? And I just went through this whole lesson and there are all these different examples, so I can repeat this. So if I do this right now,
Buch.
Buch, right? Then I went to the next one.
Nachbar.
Nachbar, right? So I went through
Loch.
Loch, right? And I just basically did this lesson a couple of times over, and I really tried to focus in on what mistake I was making. I think the mistake I'm making is that after certain sounds or certain letters like A, it's a very sort of rough sound, right? So for example, Nachbar, there's this, it's quite guttural. And then after other sounds like I, so like richtig, I believe that's the mistake I'm making, where it's a lot softer after the I letter, so richtig. And I think for me it's tricky, especially after R, because already the way my mouth is positioned to make the ch sound, rather richtig, richtig, I think maybe that's causing me to get the sound incorrect. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna keep working on this, and I'll make a video in the future where I speak German again, and hopefully I will have improved on this. And if not, maybe some of you can help me. But that's the first thing I did, okay? So I came in and I said, cool, this seems to be a recurring mistake, so there's that. The next thing I did is I actually came over here. So in my German little page here, I wrote a new page called Feedback on my spoken German. And I actually decided to take all of the comments that were given to me on that video, and I put them into a table. So you'll see here, I put a column for the timestamp because again, Curious was kind enough to include timestamps. Then I included the original sentence, right? And then on the right, I included the corrected sentence. So we have here, I guess I said, I made this mistake a lot. I said wie ihr weißt, and it should be wie ihr wisst. So I kind of experimented with red and green highlighting. And then I said, ich lerne mich wieder diese Sprache. And so then this should have been, ich habe wieder damit angefangen, diese Sprache zu lernen. And then we have the whole sentence here. And then another user, I think it's Jens. I'm so sorry if it's Jens. I'm not 100% sure the correct pronunciation, but they gave an additional sort of alternative correction here. So I got both of those. And so yeah, basically, as we go through, I just came and I brought all that feedback over to this table inside of Notion. I did, by the way, recently make a whole video showing you how to build an entire language learning system inside of Notion. So I'll also leave a link to that in the description. And that's basically what I did, and then I included the general feedback here that I got from the video. So you'll see here, I'm pretty sure that once you fix your CH, you will sound easily multiple times better to any of native speakers. So, like I said, that's why I took that and said, okay, this seems to be a recurring problem. And again, it is difficult, right? Because I have to say, I thought my German pronunciation, I thought it was pretty okay, maybe even pretty good. But it sounds like I have some issues, right? So step one is kind of accepting that and saying, okay, obviously I have problems to fix. And then step two is, I think, accepting it and being very grateful. Like, wow, isn't that great? Because if I didn't get this feedback, I would have no idea. And maybe I would be here thinking that my pronunciation was really good, right? So, and then the third step, of course, is taking action, right? How do we address this feedback? Okay, everybody, I hope you liked that video. Let me know in the comments if you have any feedback. I would love to hear it, even if it's critical. And I'll see you back here on Friday for another video.